Hi everybody, I'm Kate Foggo and this is Julie Hurt, and we are making light. So I was watching last week's episode, Julie, and I was getting so excited about something. I had this amazing idea of what we wanted to talk about, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, and it's driving me crazy because I got all excited about it, and I thought you'd really enjoy it, and I'd got all like enthusiastic and all that. Can't remember it, and as we tried earlier, I don't understand what my guides are telling me. I just got a spaniel playing, and Una, if my friend Una ever watches this, Una, it was your dog doing it, playing chopsticks on the piano very enthusiastically. Don't know what that means. However, it did occur to me, as Abraham Hicks says, that maybe if it's meant to be, then I'll be able to wedge my message in the cracks. That's what Abraham always says is, don't worry about us, we will wedge our message between the cracks. So let's see what comes out of this. It might be that I go halfway through and go, oh my God, this is what I wanted to talk about. But regardless of that, there's plenty more weeks. In the spirit of abundance, there will always be more time. There will always be more opportunities to talk about it. So we have decided this week that we're going to talk about distractions, because we know this is something that affects just about everyone, and we'll take that in whatever direction it goes. So, Ms. Hurt, would you like to start?
Distractions, yes. So as we were preparing for this episode, we were being distracted by several different things. I was distracted by my kitchen is being remodeled downstairs, so if you hear hammering and construction sounds, that's what that is. In addition, before we started, I had to go use the restroom. So of course I go to use the restroom. I get pulled in by the construction guys and my husband, who has quit his job. And it's this whole, anyway, there's so much going on.
That.
Oh yeah. Oh, see, now here's the distraction. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, maybe this is the thing. Anyway, because the ceilings are uneven in this older home. This was built like, I don't know, 30s, 50s sometime, and so things have settled, so the ceiling's uneven. So as they're going to put the cabinets in, they can't put the molding across the top evenly because the ceilings are like this instead of, anyway, so I had to get called into this little meeting, which they can handle this. They don't need, I'm the finance minister. Do what you think is in the best interest of the future people who are going to buy this house, because we're not going to be here long enough to truly enjoy this kitchen. So anyway, so I get distracted. And then, yes, Brad quit his job almost 2 weeks ago and has since been offered another one. So that's good. So we'll be moving again at some point and it's just very unsettled, continues to be unsettled. So it's constantly challenging me, which is distractions do that too. Constantly challenge one to just focus. And it's interesting. And then a side note, so here's a distraction. Last night, but this happened last night, I dreamt about hanging out with U2. So U2 is my absolute favorite band.
Not Me Too then.
Not what?
Not Me Too.
Not Me Too. Although we could talk about Me Too as well as another distraction.
No. Just when you said, I was talking about you, I was hanging out with you too. It's not like you, Kate Foggo. Also, no. You mean you too.
I mean Bono, The Edge, Adam, and Larry. Yeah, I mean U2. It's my absolute favorite. And I had a dog named Bono. Well, I still have it. He's just in spirit, but I still have a dog named Bono. Anyway, yeah. So but I love when I have those dreams because I'm just hanging out with the boys, and we're just hanging out. And I was in Dublin. I'd never been to Dublin before, and they were busy with something, and so they didn't really want to talk. And so I went out and hung out, and then was wandering around. And Bono, the human. So it's just a nice distraction. And I feel like I woke up this morning going, oh, because I was in a way better mood than this morning. I'm like, oh, the guides were helping me get rid of some of the distractions I was dealing with yesterday. Yeah. And so when you said that you saw the dog playing the piano, playing chopsticks, I'm like, oh my God, my dream. Distraction, total distraction. But yet I feel much better. But yeah. Okay. So that's where I'm at right now. But do you want me to continue to see where?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about other distractions.
Yeah. So then as we were talking about distractions, I realized this week, well, lately, not this week, like since we've lived here, like I'll get a little inspiration to write something like a blog or a Facebook post. And then I like jot it down and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. And then a million things happen in the day. And before I know it, it's 8 o'clock. I'm tired. I want to get ready for bed to go read my book because we're reading a fabulous book for book club called Breakfast with Buddha. Highly recommend myself personally. I think you like it too, right?
I do. I haven't managed to get any further with it just because stuff keeps coming up.
Yes, distractions.
So let's go back to just a second, Julie. Now this will be a while ago now. It's got to be a couple of months ago when we did the extreme self-care.
Yep.
And you said, yes, so what, you know, so the point of that for anyone who hasn't seen those episodes, which I find hugely inspiring and still haven't managed to do it myself, was that you put front and foremost what you wanted to do over and above everything, and you said everything else in your life just unfolded or just worked around it, and that it was a wonderful way to exist. So you're not doing that then?
I muted myself because the saw. Can you hear the saw? Okay, good. Yeah, so I know I've been thinking about this. Is a good point. I was thinking about that too in terms of self-care, because if we're following just like do the path of what we feel like to do in the moment, then yes, that's extreme self-care. I think I have a clarifying moment, as Abraham Hicks would say, on self-care. Like it's not do. There is a bit of that. However, what I really want to do, I do want to sit down and write some stuff about some of the things that are inspiring me of late, making me think of late. But instead of doing that and sitting down and doing that, I find like, oh, look, that carpet could be vacuumed right now. Oh, I'll just do that. Oh, look, my marketing client has several emails that need to be answered. Oh, I'll just do that real quick and then it'll be done.
If I may interrupt you, from our previous conversation, actually, whereas before you would have felt driven, shall we say, obligated to service your marketing client, this is when you find that actually that pressure goes away, which it has suddenly for you, that you then fill your distractions with carpet cleaning. Yes. It's like, and this is something that, you know, again, it's so good to see a real life example. Not good, it's not great to see it, but it's a learning experience that means you can challenge it. Is that we always think that what holds us from what we want to do is the obligations to others, and yet 100% of the time it's actually you.
Yeah,
it's you. So I'm the same with the shed. I've got to do this. I've got customers coming. I've got clients coming. I've got guests coming. It has to be top priority. I have to get this done. I have to do that. Then bang, I'll get a day where I could quite happily go and do all the things I want to do, and I'm like, nah, I'll watch RuPaul's Drag Race, or I don't often spend a whole day, although I would happily. You know, you can always find something. I think, though, what I'm learning about myself is this touch. See, I got this real nagging thing I wanted to talk about. I find that I work differently to how I feel I should. And I think actually this is all part of, I did a course, I didn't get very far in it, but it was one of the first sort of online courses I did. And it was actually with Claire Zammit. Have you heard of her?
Claire Balance? No.
Zammit. And it was about women, divine women, something about women, divine feminine, fascinating. Mm-hmm. But it was all about how so much of us, especially in the corporate world and that, and the masculine world, is all about end results and projects and timelines and scheduling and all of that. And yet with feminine energy and creativity, it doesn't really work like that, that you're actually working all over the place. And it's and that women especially get stuck, or really anyone moving into this field gets stuck, because in order to get a loan, in order to get a job, and everything that we are taught in this material world and very, very masculine world, is that you need to have an end goal, you need to have timelines, you need to have scheduling, you need to have milestones, you need to have achievement, and that the only way you can define success is moving along this timeline. And it just does not work like that when you're not doing a project schedule, you know, the rest of, you know, creativity. So I found that, I'm not saying I'm any good at this, but the last few days, although the purpose for doing it is not, how do I explain this? So my end result, or what I'm hoping to do, is if I can get onto more booking sites with my guest house that book further out, because at the moment I only get bookings 6 to 8 weeks in advance, and now the season is suddenly dropping away. So I'm like, right, I can't, okay, it's very long and tedious, but essentially if I can get onto other sites as well, I can say that, you know, from 2 months to 6 months, for example, during that time, I will take a minimum booking of 4 days, 5 days, 6, you know, minimum 4 days. And then as the 2-month window comes in, it falls into the Airbnb where it can be minimum of 2 nights to fill in the gaps, because I really want longer stays, because that ultimately will make my life easier, because it's the same money for four times less, well, half the work, quarter of the work. So that's what I'm trying to do. And in order to do that, I have to look at scheduling sites that will then put the booking calendars in, synchronized booking calendars, so that I'm not trying to manage that manually. So in doing that, I then looking at a digital guidebook for my place, because at the moment it's all in Airbnb and just stuff like that. Now I love this stuff, Julie. This is my bread and butter, because I'm very technical minded. I'm also enjoy doing stuff like that. Normally it's the sort of thing I actually enjoy doing. It's like I'm reframing things for myself. I actually enjoy doing this stuff when the pressure's off and I'm sort of doing it. I don't feel like I have managed to take timelines off myself. I'm actually really enjoying it, and I'm getting quite excited about it. And I've realized that when I do this, I'm actually working on 4 or 5 different projects. I'm not working on that, because as I started the project of, right, Kate needs to get on booking.com, and then I need to find some scheduling software. How do I choose that software? What sites do I go to? And then amble. And then I end up going, I need a digital guidebook, because if I'm going to be on multiple sites, so then I amble to the guidebook, and then that's like, so I'm actually working on 3 different fronts at the moment, and I'm enjoying it. And I'm realizing if I do this, my natural way of working is like that. It's chaotic. If you try to put that into if you've ever learned Microsoft Project, I used to go crazy at work. It was the first time I realized that actually I could sit at work and do 8 hours of work that had absolutely zero benefit to the company, and nobody would notice, because I would spend that long trying to make my project balance a learning project. And I would think at the end of that day, I'd think I am no further forward than I would have been had I just looked at this bloody piece of paper and said, I need 8 engineers and it's going to take us 6 weeks. I have a beautiful project to show my manager, go, look, I've got it all in Microsoft Project. But I could literally spend 8 hours a day that would fall into a black hole, and there's nobody going, just a minute, Mrs. Fogel, what did you do today that brought the company value? And that was the first time in my life I realized how people get away with doing fuck all day after day after day in some jobs, because I'd look back at my day and go, everything else that was urgent today didn't get done because I was determined to finish this. It has added absolutely zero value to the company, and yet I got paid the same money. Now, the stupid thing about that is I was still working very, very hard. So I deserve that money, but net value to the company, zero. Anyway, that's my story. Don't know what. So no. I'm just wondering, I guess what a very long way around, I'm sorry, was that you're saying that there are things you want. I actually think that sometimes, especially with writing, that you need to percolate. I've found that. I put off writing that stuff about Maria for ages now, and I kept getting little snippets, and I was like, I need to sit down. I want to sit down. I really want to sit down. And then when I finally did, it just all fell out. Whereas if I had forced myself to do it sooner, I don't think it would have done. So I think that, you know, you may be hoovering the carpet, but that stuff is still happening when you're creating, I think.
No, I absolutely agree. Yeah, when you were talking, it was making me think, like, first of all, like the working on all fronts. Yes, I totally identify with that, because I chair a nonprofit organization that's based in Alaska. I'm the chairperson of the board. I have my own business. I'm helping a group of animal communicators that we've banded together to help nonprofits that you're a part of too. And I'm going to help with the social media part. What else did we have going on? Oh, I have the marketing of Making Light too, right? So I've got all of that stuff. Plus I have a marketing client who out of the blue told me I could start to let go, which I had been wanting. I've been telling her I wanted to let go for like a month plus. And so now she's all of a sudden,
sounds like she just heard you.
yeah. So I'm just, so and I'm like, oh, look at that, the universe is lining stuff up, because there's other things that are happening, like a TAing classes for our teacher, like I get to TA another class, and so I'm just like,
have you already done one?
I did one. Now I just got asked to do another one, so I'm very excited about that.
I'm a little bit jealous because I would love to do that, but it was late again. It's like really late hours for me. There's no way I could.
Oh yeah, I know you have to be, well, because it's like 7
p.m.
7 to 8. Yeah, it's like, oof, yeah. Any hoozle. So yeah, like things, you're right. It's yesterday, like for example, I got a message Monday night that my marketing client was like, you know what? Let go. Just let go. If this is as good a time as any, just let go. And our teacher, I was saying to you earlier, our teacher has this analogy for me where I'm like holding on so tight and then let go, wee, and then oh my gosh. So I'm like, okay, look, another sign to let go. And also because the new a new TA opportunity was coming online. And so I'm just like, oh, look, see, it all works out, because that's what I really want to do, is this work. All of this work makes my heart sing. So the universe is clearing paths for me. But yesterday was just kind of like a weird, I had an intuitive coaching session in the morning, and then I was just like, I just wanted to sleep. Like I just felt, ugh. And then I have a little fitness class I do online, did that, and then really kind of meandered until I had other intuitive stuff that started up at 4:30 again. So, but I just kind of was beating myself up a little bit for, oh, look, you didn't write, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Well, no, I just felt like I needed to let it percolate. That's a really good way.
Did you sleep?
Yeah. And then I had the dream with you too, hanging out. And now today I feel like, what? There's like, Bono and I are buds. Someday. His birthday's the day after mine, so I know we're totally destined to like meet. Yeah, good times. Anyway, so yeah, but distractions, it is interesting how many there are.
I think you need to take ownership of them. That's what I'm learning, is that sometimes there's a good reason for it. Sometimes there's not. And if your distractions are through guilt or through, basically things you don't want to do and that you resent doing, maybe it's a mirror up to yourself to say, well, about time you stood up for yourself then. It's about time you stop doing this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find that we spend our whole lives. Well, there is another bit to that actually that I learned in that feminine power course. That's really annoying me that I can't define feminine. Was feminine power, is it called? And that is that for women especially, again, when you start moving in a different path and you're like asking, say, most of us come from a place of I'm not happy, therefore I'm looking for something else, but we don't know what it is that we can do or want or even want to do. And escaping, as we both know, escaping that trap is very, very difficult, but even more so because you're not sure. It's not like you've got a goal, you just know this isn't working for me, I need to find another way. But it's okay if you wake up one day and say, right, I want to be a painter and here's my plan. But most of us don't know what it is we really want to do. We may have vague feelings about it, but it doesn't. And not only do we don't have the passion that we want to do, we then can't translate that into the ego side of it, which is how am I going to make any money doing this? How do I further myself? How do I learn about this? Where do I start? All of that. And she said one of the hardest things for women especially is that very rarely is there space in a woman's life where she is allowed to even consider. And she's like, you've got to start from the beginning, and that's actually just about giving yourself space. You cannot be expected to turn around to someone who's never had a chink in their timetable to ever do anything for pleasure other than I'm going to go and get drunk with the girls because that's what I do on a Friday night, but you've never had like a I was reading this author who's very funny. She's not Scottish, but she's a British author. Moran. Oh, I'll put it in the show notes. Caitlin Moran.
Oh, okay.
And she talks about like when her husband has a day off, he'll go and play tennis, or he'll play a video game, he'll go to the pub, he'll do something that he wants to do, whether it's sitting in the living room for 24 hours playing Star Trek movie, whatever. And she's like, when women have like a week off or a weekend off, they sign up for French classes, they'll rearrange the airing cupboard, they'll remodel a kitchen, they'll, it's like, we don't know how to go. When Gary's on day off, it's a day off. He puts his feet up. I mean, don't get me wrong, he does other stuff, but he may wash a car, but he washes the car because he enjoys washing the car, not because it needs to be done. And if he's playing a game, he plays a game. That's it. End of. He doesn't. Whereas I can't sit down 10 minutes later. I'm like, oh, I probably need to go and arrange the knife drawer, or laundry needs to get done, or something like that. And she's like, we're our own worst enemy.
Yes.
And this is what Claire Zammit says: is how can you sit and allow and dream about what you want if you've never allowed yourself time and space to explore what it is you want? And that you can't just jump straight into, here's my end goal, because you don't know what that is until you start moving towards it, and then things will unfold, as we've both found.
Yeah. This idea that you've said a couple times, but like feminine power or the divine feminine, which for me, as you know, I've been like dipping my toes into creation spirituality following Matthew Fox, which is what was the impetus of last week, which I do want to come back to, not today, but I do want to come back to this idea of anger leads to passion, leads to creativity, leads to, but we'll get there in another time, because I have other things to talk about in that theory. So anyway, but this divine feminine aspect of it, because it is, as we look at the shift in energy that many of us are experiencing now, it is, as people write about it, we feel it, we perceive it, the rise of the divine feminine, which doesn't mean completely the rise of women. It just means that type of energy, which is different than the masculine or divine masculine energy. You do need to have both. One, we cannot say, oh, it's only feminine now and forget all men are equal or bad or whatever, to the point where I have a really good friend that still lives in Alaska, and we try to talk at least once a week, and they're usually really deep topics. She's a fan of this show, which I'm super grateful for too. Anyway.
Hello.
Yeah. But we were talking about the patriarchy and the word patriarchy, and how some people have taken it and it means ew to white men, like, and it's like this, we're going to push white men off to the side, and that's not exactly what it means. It means, to some degree, the systems that we've put in place, that we've built as humans to either protect a line of power or uphold something that may not be so good. And like racism is one, termination of a pregnancy, medical procedure, as I prefer to call it, is another. Like, there's systems that, and this divine feminine power is the ability to take a look at it from all different angles, hence possibly distractions, and go, let me poke a hole there. Oh, let me poke a hole there. And it's all of this coming together to kind of think through that. So I just had to think, you just inspired me to kind of put a little bit more of that together, which is also some of what I want to write about, but it's still percolating. And as an animal communicator, not to further distract this, however, as an animal communicator, my blog predominantly, if I think of it in marketing terms, should deal with animals, but I'm excited about so much more that the animals, I realized today as I was driving Lucas to daycare, and I'm like, just having little conversations with my guides, and they're like, yeah, but the animals took you there. The animals took you there. I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that. So it's like just all these little percolating thoughts. So yeah, that's kind of interesting that distractions they're not bad as long, and they're not bad. And I don't want to put a qualifier on them. I was going to say they're not bad as long as you're aware of them. That puts a qualifier. But
also,
that's the power of them, if they're aware of them.
It should be interesting to look up the definition of it, because I sort of think of a distraction as something that goes, cool, come and look at me, look at me, look at me. But often our gripes with distractions are things that we see as things that we don't want to do that have to be done. And we call that a distraction. I'm not sure that it is a distraction. It's probably more Yeah, there's a lot to be done in language there as well, Julie, which you'd like that, wouldn't you? But because there's two things. There's one is I suppose we've got distractions and we have obligations. But like what's interesting is I have, God forbid, Julie, that it requires me actually talking to someone like you to realize that I have felt a little lift the last few days. I don't know if I think it's because, well, I don't know, you know, maybe things are working out after all. But it was about, I can't remember now, one of my lovely guests took one of my knives away by mistake. She messaged me and said, I'm really sorry. I'd got a husband or boyfriend a giant cookie and she'd wrapped the knife up when they're gone and that. And I'm like, that's fine, you know, whatever. And then, you know, I needed to buy something to replace it, but then trying to find something that's suitable. And actually, do you know what? I sort of think of these things in bulk as irritating, annoying things, but actually it's a big part of what I do really, really well is sourcing things and finding things and looking. The other thing was we have a first aid kit and it's in a nice little bag, but it means that if anybody takes a plaster out, I don't know if anything else has been used, and it, you know, and it's, you know, it's not, I really wanted a tin so that you could just open it and see what's in it as opposed to having to take everything out of this bag. So I tried to find a tin. I couldn't find a tin that would fit in a cupboard, you know, and these things take me days. I actually put it on my Facebook page for some tedious plug for someone, but it's like, but I get such huge satisfaction actually out of buying it. When it arrives, by the time it arrives, I've lost interest, but I get such satisfaction in actually, so I bought an old Elastoplast tin, like the old fashioned, you know, and okay, it's a bit rusty and it's got sellotape all over it, but you know, it's quaint and it's vintage and it's the right shape and it's quite cute, and you know, things like that. Like if I'm in a mood, I'm like, I've got all this shit I have to do. But the reality is I don't need a box for plasters, right? It's fine. I could buy a cardboard box of plasters.
Yes. And for our American friends, let me just say this, for our American friends, a plaster is a Band-Aid.
Yes, and I wish I had the box here because it's actually called Band-Aid, the box I bought. American, I thought it was British. Oh my God, that's ruined my British vintage look because it's actually American.
No, I want you to know. No, Band-Aid, which is a trademarked, registered mark of Johnson & Johnson Corporation. Just not giving them a shot.
I didn't know Johnson & Johnson. Is Johnson & Johnson American?
Yes, they're based in New Jersey.
It's a British.
Their headquarters.
I thought it was a British company. Anyway, stuff like that, and a lot of that's just reframing, isn't it? It's just reframing. It's like, Kate, you enjoy this. You don't have to do this. You could put the fucking plasters in a box. You don't have to go and buy a little vintage tin, which Gary would say was shabby shit. Looks like you raked through 1970s rubbish to find it. But you know, I like it.
Yeah.
I choose to do these things because actually I get a lot of pleasure out of them, and it's only when I'm under pressure that these things then become a chore, and then I hate myself for being the type of person that can't just put a cardboard box of plasters in, you know, because there's a bit of me that I want things to be nice. It's not just about for other people, it's because I like it.
Yeah.
I'm seeing things quite differently this week. I'm so excited. There's so much to talk about, but it's 4:30. How long have we been recording? Are we going to bore everyone to death? Because
I haven't been tracking. We'll see.
So just a wee teaser then for Hildegard Bingham.
Hildegard Bingham.
So you sent me on a rabbit hole because I'm good at rabbit holes, and a lot of my avoidance of getting involved in not social justice but any sort of thing like that is I do tend to go down a rabbit hole, and I feel like I don't have time at the moment. It's not I don't have time. It's not my priority. But I did actually quite enjoy poking around after last week's episode. I am still very undecided, but I think there's a lot more meat in there. As you know, my concern was the balance between using anger to evolve versus law of attraction. I've got a few theories around that, which I think is possibly what I wanted to talk to you about, but they are yeah,
that sounds meaty and exciting.
Meaty. Yes. I love the way you say that.
Meaty.
So distractions.
distractions leads.
Do we have a conclusion?
I think so. I feel like we just that little, it doesn't feel like it was a long conversation. Maybe it was.
No, it doesn't. But
Yeah.
I don't know what time we started.
You just was talking about all the different things I think that had been happening, but it feels now like distractions are a normal process, and possibly I could even make the argument, a process of the divine feminine, in an effort to work through whatever it is so that we can create, we can transform.
Well, I suppose that there's an element of well, sort of law of attraction. There is this idea of if you can't think positively about something that you're looking for an outcome on, like if you have a situation, for most people, for example, would be financial. If you know you've got two ends of the stick, you've got over here you've got abundance, lots of money, and over here you've got the lack of abundance and money. And most of us, if you want, according to law of attraction, if you want lots of money, you have to look over here, you have to look at here at the abundance. But the problem is we all look over here at the lack of money, at the lack of money, at the lack of money, which is just bringing more lack of money. And Esther talks about, not Esther, Abraham talks about all these sticks we have, and that would be the money stick. And then she says, if you've got really hung up on one or other of these things, you have to not look at it. Like there's no point looking at the money stick if you can't get off the lack of money end of it. If you can't think of the other end of the stick, you better not. It doesn't matter. She says it doesn't matter what stick you look at. You've got to look at the happy end of the stick, as it were. So that's maybe another thing about distractions, is when you're poking your way through, you know, you're sifting through stuff in your head, and you actually end up cleaning the carpet and leave on a neutral point where actually you quite enjoy cleaning the carpet because it looks quite good, as long as it wasn't a burden on you. It's all good for your vibration, as long as you're happy with your carpet and you're not sitting going, I wish I didn't have to clean this frigging carpet.
Right.
I'm brilliant at reframing at the moment. It must be a high vibration.
Yeah, well, they are saying, they, meaning the greater community of empath spiritual workers, whichever you want to call it, light workers, I don't know, that September is supposed to be a lighter month. And it says also the fall equinox, which is a moment of harvest. And
when's that?
Moment of harvest is what I said.
The harvest moon, do you know when it is?
No, but I could Google it.
Well, so could I. I might try and go swimming on a harvest moon.
I'm sure. Well, is it when the full moon is? Because I'm sure.
Do you know what? I don't even know if they're the same thing. It's just someone occurred to me. I just remember seeing someone posted on my swimming page about a harvest moon, and I don't know what a harvest moon is.
What is a harvest moon? And it's around September 23rd is what it always says. Well, there'll be one in 2021, September 20th.
5 days.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. There you go. Yeah. Okay. Harvest moon. But yeah, so there's another distraction. Woo, there's the moon, which is also equated with divine feminine.
Right. So that, I just looked it up. It's Claire Zammit, Zammit, and I'll put the link in. I was really impressed with it. I didn't get very far with it, and I'll probably go. It's one of these things I'll probably go back to, but certainly made the first couple of chapters or sessions that I did with her were really good, really powerful. And it's called the Feminine Power was the name of her course.
Oh.
But it just went a long way for me at the beginning of my journey of reassuring me that there was nothing wrong with me, in that I couldn't, that it's, in the masculine world, and even in sort of the spiritual world, people say you shouldn't run away from something, you should be running towards something, and then you get stuck because you're like, I don't know what I'm going toward, I just have to get away from here.
Right.
And then that, that can get you stuck. And it's like, but you can run toward just something better. You don't have to have that defined.
Yeah.
You cannot expect to define something that you've never given thought to, because as we know, thought is how things create. If you haven't made that space and started those conversations and started that thinking process and all that percolating, you don't know what that is. But don't let that put you off. That would be my message. And I don't know how that fits in with distractions, but we'll let you do the outro and you can work out how to tie that all into it.
No, I feel that ties it up rather nicely to me. It feels like we were talking about distraction, and instead of looking at it as a, oh, I'm wasting my time not doing what I need to be doing,
no time is wasted.
It's actually the little seeds that lead to creativity, which is one of the 4 paths to enlightenment according to creation spiritualists, which is a whole nother topic. But anyway. So
what are the other 4 then? What are the other 3?
So there's via positiva, via negativa, via creativa, and via transformativa. But we were discovering earlier, here's a distraction, that via negativa can be defined by a set of theologians as taking what God is not, but that's not the theology that I'm like been experiencing of late. So who knew? There's like a whole nother thing. So
yeah, and I know when you Google it, you get an astonishing and intimidating array of information when you do that. So don't let that put you off, because I didn't understand a word of it.
Yeah, no, it was more about via negativa, we'll just say real quickly, which we may get into someday, we'll see, is more about releasing, which at this point in time, if you talk about September and the energies around September and the harvest moon and the time of reaping, it's also the time of release to some degree, because everything that's been growing all summer long begins to release as it prepares for winter. So it's that's all. So there's all those distractions, and it's going to lead to something creative and transformative and lead kids.
Wow, we got a subject out of that.
Yes. Wow. Whole big thing. So distractions as seedlings for creation and creativity and ultimately transformation possibly too. So much, so many little thoughts. So this was kind of all over the board, everybody, but we hope that you enjoyed this episode of Making Light 2 Humans Being. I'm Julie Hirt. This is, as always, with Kate Foggo, the brilliant, makes me think about things and just puts all these little pieces together. Also with a little help from you too, I'll just say thanks for the dream last night, boys. Anyway. Oh, it's fun just hanging out with them. Anyway, so we will see you next time on Making Light 2 Humans Being. As always, please subscribe so that others can find us. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Give us some feedback. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Everything you need to know is in the show notes, and we hope to see you next time. Thanks for being here.